With the brand new open world concept for Mario Kart World, it changes how a lot of the modes in the game will function. Most notably, with the Grand Prix. The way that they reworked it is that now you have to drive from each course to the next, and I'll be honest, I don't really know what to think of it. At first, I thought you would still be doing the 4 3-lap races, just now with the added drive between them. That was kind of already feeling like it was doing too much, but in actuality, it may be doing too little. Because the Treehouse event showed some hands-on gameplay clarifying that the drive to the next location counted as a part of its laps. That of course means that the game will no longer have the traditional 3 laps for each track, and that is when I started to get more concerned for just exactly what this change could mean for the game. Looking at the map, there's only 29 locations listed, or at least 29 dedicated hotspots. There could be stuff in between. I have to assume that they aren't showing us everything, because remember, you do have to play through Grand Prix in order to unlock Rainbow Road. However, that would still only bring the count up to 30, and that doesn't divide evenly if the cups are supposed to be 4 races each. So there's no way these are all the tracks. Right? So far, this does kind of feel like an underwhelming number, especially coming off the 96 courses that Deluxe ended with, but even without all that DLC, the base version of Mario Kart 8 still had 32 tracks at launch, which is more than what we're seeing here. Not by too much, but at least it was a completed set. So immediately my first concern looking at this is growing tired of these courses much faster because there are less of them. Running through Grand Prix may feel a lot more limited and thus not worth playing. Especially in comparison to something like Versus Mode, where it does let you just choose any track at will, I could completely see Grand Prix becoming, like, void if there isn't that much variety. This is where having that open world mechanic shows its positives, because it does open the map up to more than just those specific hotspots. And I'd say having less tracks in service to an entire world to play through is a fair enough trade. I mean, first off, it's good that the game incorporates the whole map into the Grand Prix, you know, that's not just a gimmick that they slapped on top. The open world aspect is an integral part of the game's experience, right? It's good that they're going full throttle with that. That is the fresh reinvention that the series desperately needed after 10 years of Mario Kart 8, so it's like, I'm glad they're not wasting it. The Grand Prix, including the drive between locations, will make the courses a lot more expansive, and that will hopefully negate any feeling of them being overplayed or becoming repetitive. Because I don't know if you've ever had this happen, but sometimes when I'm playing Mario Kart, I lose track of how many laps I've done. And just when I feel like it should be over, turns out there's one more to go. Being hit with the game requiring more of you right when you feel like you should be moving on is one of the worst things that could happen. It can honestly ruin your experience. Having a mixture of roads, challenges, and scenic environments to work through will make the game more fluid. And that's not to mention all the new ways to race in each map. Stuff like grinding on rails, driving on walls, surfing the waves, literally making up your own path if you wanted to, or even just simply sticking to the main road. There's almost an overwhelming amount of things to service the game's replayability. I absolutely love this, because I'm one of the players that's always looking for ways to move differently in games. Having that confidence in yourself to be able to adapt on the fly is what makes Mario Kart so satisfying to play. So although we may only have a small chunk of areas to visit, each race will feel completely different if you wanted to. Getting sick of taking the same old path? Well, have you tried this one? Star, just pretend the ball is... That recording was 7 minutes, by the way. That's how many times I stuttered. However, with all the time in Grand Prix that's spent outside the tracks, I can't help but wonder how they plan on balancing it all out. If the game is made with the open world in mind, and thus incorporates the whole environment into the race, what exactly does that leave for the actual course itself? Because everything would have to carry the same weight, right? You can't just slap a slop of roads in between the courses. If those roads are supposed to be counting for the same race. Could that mean that the actual hotspots aren't as detailed so they don't outshine the rest of the Grand Prix? Or vice versa? Are the sections between the tracks going to be lacking in content in order to service the themes of those locations? So it's kind of a double-edged sword here. Yes, it would greatly diversify the Grand Prix to have more of the world included. That's what we should be looking towards. But if it's not done correctly, then the game could end up being polluted by all of those in-between sections. And that is my greatest concern with this system. All the meat and potatoes will only be for a few laps, and everything else won't have any real theming to it. I think one of the best things about each new Mario Kart installment is seeing how the game reinvents itself. Seeing all the new courses, and how it updates a lot of the older courses, right? So it's a little upsetting to know that we may not spend as much time in a lot of those courses during the Grand Prix. And I would hate to spend most of my time racing through empty stretches of road when, you know, I could be racing through jungles, or ice castles, or space stations, or... Whatever the hell is... What is this? Thunder Mountain? That's cool. I like that one. Actually, you know what? Fine. I'll give you a pass for that one. I'll be honest, a lot of the themes do seem a little bit... One-dimensional. Watching the Treehouse events has eased my fears a little bit, but given how a lot of the Grand Prix Cups stay within the same environment, it does worry me that they won't have too much to show. You know how in Mario Kart 8, when you do like Star Cup, and you would be at an airport, then the next race you would be underwater, then the next race was Electrodome, then it was Mount Wario, and all of those are distinctly different areas. My greatest fear with some of these cups is seeing how close they are together. Most of them share themes in the world. If you're supposed to just be doing 4 races within like Bowser's domain, oh, dodge the lava, or, you know, you're in a volcano setting, that's gonna get boring after the second race, right? And then to just sort of like jump off of that, there are a lot of growing concerns about Mario Kart World being boring. And as excited as I am for the game, I gotta be honest, I can see where they come from. Plus, then what does that say for all the areas not included in Grand Prix? Do they get any love, or are they just gonna be placements meant for nothing more than to join areas together? Looking at the trailers and seeing how like a lot of the areas that they're showing off are just sort of open spaces, that's not really the greatest sign. I really hope that it's not like Breath of the Wild, where most of the map is just are those open spaces. I understand that's like the whole story of the game, so it has the benefit of a reason, but how often do you find yourself just roaming the fields and being more fixated on all the other stuff in the distance? Being more interested in what's past you than you are in the location that you're currently in. And I don't want Mario Kart World to become that, just driving between points because I'm more fascinated by the fact that I could travel between them than I am to actually explore them. That's not an open world, that's just a controllable loading screen. A false sense of immersion. And that was the initial fear I had when looking at the Grand Prix system for this game. That it's more about the ability to move between the tracks than it is playing them, spending time in their unique location. I really hope the game doesn't fall into that open world trap where it swoons you with the idea of a giant landscape to conquer, only for you to finally get there and realize that most of it has no real story. I'm going to drop a little bit of the analytical mind here and say that regardless, I think this is a really good direction for the series to be going in. As I was saying, it's easy to feel like games just throw in open world because it's the new thing. But despite all the worries and concerns, the more of Mario Kart World that I see, the more it grows on me. What I've always loved about this series is all the different worlds and environments you race through. And I've said this before, that the best part of the game is the identity of the Mario universe. I know we haven't seen everything, or at least I hope we haven't seen everything, but from what we've gotten, it looks like they're keeping true to that identity. I cannot wait to drive around and see everything that the map does have to offer. Studying the buildings, finding every corner that I can, following the Yoshis and Crown City around and mapping out a detailed day-to-day routine, sitting at the end of a bridge and counting how many cars have Shy Guys in them. Just kind of like bumming around, honestly. I really hope that the game does let us do stuff like that, because another one of my fears with, games like this is having exploration constantly interrupted. In one of the directs, they say that there's obstacles on the track that you have to avoid when you're racing between each location, and it would kind of suck if those obstacles are still present in free roam. Or when you are, when you do get to a track location in free roam, there's a chance for a random event to happen. Obviously, I want there to be side content to service the free roam. They already said there's missions scattered throughout the world, which is great. I would just rather it be built as things to do on the map, not a map of things to do, if you could kind of see what I'm getting at. Because, like, in Spider-Man 2, for example, when I'm swinging around and it spawns, like, a horde of symbiotes right in front of me, and then that just takes priority over the gameplay, like, I would be so unfathomably pissed off if I am, like, following a Yoshi around, and then all of a sudden I just get nuked by a blue shell, and I just get swooped into this, like, event that's happening. Basically, what I'm saying is I want all the side content to be selectable. I hope that I can bum around the map without having to, like, fight or avoid things. When you have things in game that are unavoidable, what it does, it just makes the player afraid to go to specific areas. I think that would really benefit the game to give people that freedom. The last thing to end on isn't a concern. It's actually the opposite. It's something I want to happen. It would be really cool if the game had radio stations that played various Mario music as you drove around in free roam. I assume each location will have its own themes that play over the game, but having a radio station is just a fun touch that could greatly improve immersion. Think of it as like the radio stations in GTA, where each one has its own theme and genre it sticks to. But Mario. So like World 2 radio could play all the desert themes, Rainbow Radio could be a station you unlock in the endgame that plays all the Rainbow Road themes, or maybe each station could be modeled after a console generation and they play the music from its respective installment. Basically the audio player from Deluxe, but in-game, and you can't actually decide what it plays. I think it would be neat to surf around the ocean playing Koopa Cape or something.